Because 10-0, yeah, that got my attention. Not that I thought it was insurmountable by any stretch, obviously, but it got my attention. Then I thought, no, let's wait. I'm still locked in on these other games. I'm going to wait to see a little bit. And then it got mid third quarter, and of course 17-7 in that range was what I saw, like mid third quarter to the rest of the game. And yeah, they certainly blew by Kansas, took the win, but it in no way was easy, and was something that we, just like everybody else, took for granted. At this point last week, we were talking and laughing about Kansas football, but it was much closer than expected.
Yeah, it really was, Mark, and I think we've talked a lot about Oklahoma's quarterback situation and stuff, maybe underperforming a little bit earlier on in the year, but I think more of the onus has been on the defensive side of the ball. It's become, I think, Mark, a little bit of a blueprint against this team, and how to play this team is really run the clock, convert third downs, and really keep the Oklahoma offense off the field. So Kansas got the ball, they drove, took about almost a little bit over 9 minutes off the clock on their opening drive, went right down the field, and then Oklahoma was pressing a little bit on offense. Caleb Williams threw his first interception of the year in the first half. And the offense really just wasn't able to get a whole lot going as well. I mean, a lot of it just had to do with them not being on the field as much, and then they were able to get on the field a little bit more in the second half. Oklahoma did get a turnover, which helped as well down the stretch. But Mark, the defense continues to be a problem, continues to be an area of concern for this team based on what they looked like coming into the season. Lack of aggressiveness is being seen there. The defensive line is not playing well. You're just seeing, I think, one thing that's been very prototypical of a Grinch coach defense for Oklahoma over the last couple of years is guys flying to the football, tons of effort, and you're not seeing that. There's a couple of, and this was kind of going through social media this week, there's a couple of areas where you saw players just walking around while the plays were actually happening. So I think there's a lot of concern on the effort, what Grinch is able to get out of these kids right now, because they are that's been the bugaboo for this program over the last 5-10 years. The offense has consistently been good enough to win championships, and they're probably good enough this year. I mean, it remains to be seen how Caleb Williams will play against some of this tougher competition in November, but for the third straight week, they've run the ball for over 200 yards. So I think that's a very strong positive. But yeah, the defense they're hurt. They've got about 4 or 5 guys that are starting. So you take that are typically a starting group that are out because of injuries. So I think that's one of the things that's making them struggle. They're juggling people around in the secondary. So one of the telltale signs has been over the last couple of years, Oklahoma has been really, really good on third down defense. I think in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% conversion percentage, and this year they're up in the upper 40s. So one of the worst in the country. So I think that's the key, maybe even above all else defensively, just not being able to consistently get off the field.
Yeah, Jason, I think it's pretty easy to confirm at this point, even though I don't like to speculate on the thought process of individuals, but that there's a portion of the team, what number that is, that seems to just think that everything's going to be okay. That maybe going into a game like this, it's Kansas. How bad do we have to play to lose this game? It just can't happen. It's impossible. We're not going to lose this game, so I don't really have to give that much effort. Or in previous games, it's going to be okay until proven wrong. We haven't lost a game, so we can just flip the switch whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, and I think this was a little bit, not in terms of struggling to this degree, Mark, but I think coming off of how well they played and how emotional the last 2 weeks were against Texas and then TCU to a certain degree. I, going to Kansas where the fan base is obviously not engaged, an 11 a.m. game. I thought that there would be a little bit of a flatness to this, but certainly not to that degree. To be down, not even score a point against one of the worst teams in America, definitely I think the worst FBS or Power Five FBS team in the country, and then really just struggle. Yeah, they scored 35 points in the second half, but you know they go up by, I think it was 13 points or 12 points, and then Kansas goes right back down the field in like 4 or 5 plays on Oklahoma's defense, and they need a one of the smartest, headiest plays I've ever seen. They need that, or they're, to your point, how bad do they have to be to lose? I mean, you're getting ready to find out how, you know what I mean? Because Kansas takes over the ball there around midfield area, only down by less than a touchdown. So, I don't know if this is a wake up call. I know that Grinch has continuously talked in the media just about how the sense of urgency really needs to be there, because they got Tech, they got a bye week, and then they've got they've got the gauntlet that is November. Traditionally, Oklahoma has played extremely well in November, so it's so odd to talk about. Oklahoma has the longest winning streak in the country right now. They're undefeated, and it feels like when you watch them, this is a 2 or 3 loss team already. I mean, they've been the benefit of winning, a lot of close games. They've got the Western Carolina game that was a blowout. Other than that, there's no other games that have been, won comfortably. I know the TCU margin was 21, but Oklahoma scored a late touchdown to make that 21. So it's not, it's not what you would expect. I know a lot of people are up in arms about some of the rankings, but when you look at Oklahoma just from a trajectory of the season, now it may not necessarily bode well for the playoffs, but if you win the rest of your games by 1 point, you're in if you're Oklahoma. But however, the competition goes up dramatically after that. So people that are frustrated about the rankings, or even the college football playoff rankings when they come out. I believe next week is the first one.
Yes.
So even if Oklahoma's like 4 or 5 or 6, and that, I mean, it'll take care of itself at some point. So